Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the cert-manager bi-weekly meeting. It's the 17th of April 2025, the first meeting since Kubecon, and there's not much on the agenda apart from talking about Kubecon, and then maybe we'll have some general chat after that. Peter, you were the one that put the Kubecon recap into the meeting notes, which was an excellent idea. I'm going to say anyone that was at KubeCon maybe could think of something to say that they found interesting or cool. We'll do a cert-manager roundup of what we thought. Peter, if you'd like to start, put you on the spot.
Of course. No, I did hope to have an announcement page, but that probably needs some input. So whatever you recap, I might stick into that PR I've opened for that. But it was my first KubeCon. I think the standout thing for me were the Contra Fest that I went to. That was my favorite part. But in terms of cert manager, Tim and Eric, who aren't here today, but they did a fantastic talk at 5:30 on Thursday, the penultimate day of the conference. It was extremely well attended, had some very good feedback and engagement afterwards, which was awesome to see. The Contra Fest that we did the day before, I think, went pretty well. We had a pretty full room. As the three that I went to, it was the fullest of all of them, which is a good sign. My calculations, so don't quote me on these numbers. You can go and write yourself if you want. But we definitely had at least 6 PRs that afternoon from a room of, let's say, about 30 people, I think. And we've definitely had a bunch of follow-up PRs on way more complicated topics. Our goal for that was just to get people started with cert-manager, which I think was successful. A lot of people were self-sufficient, which was awesome, and a lot of people contributed since. So that was really good. And I think, Ash, you did probably the vast majority of the time on the booth and probably met quite a lot of people from that. I don't know how many certificates were printed, but I'm going to hand over to you to tell us how many certificates were distributed from cert-manager at the company.
I think we hit over 200. I don't remember the actual number, and Tim took the pie home, so I can't check. But it wasn't as busy as Salt Lake City, where we had the graduation bump, but it was incredibly busy still. And I don't really have much to say about the rest of the conference because I didn't really go to anything in the rest of the conference. I was just stood at the booth because I kind of like that. What I can say is a lot of the people that came by organically mentioned that they were using Trust Manager, which is quite a shift from past KubeCons where a lot of people would come up and I'd mention Trust Manager and they'd say, "Oh, I want to use that." This time it felt like there were more people coming up saying they were already using it and that they were mentioning it alongside cert-manager as a thing that they were using, which is a really good sign for the project. And there's been a lot of work in Trust Manager this week and moving forwards for V1 Alpha 2. Like all of that seems really positive. A bunch of interesting stuff there. I think that if I'm stretching to think of another theme that was common, a few people did come up and say that they were having issues around hitting rate limits with Acme. One really interesting one was where there was this company who I have forgotten. To be fair, even if I remembered, I probably wouldn't say it on the call. But like they were doing regular disaster recovery checks where they'd sort of like build everything up from scratch in case, imagining that they'd lost everything, and they killed their rate limits doing that with Let's Encrypt, which I guess that's the purpose of a disaster recovery thing to check that. They were wondering about some sort of caching for that. Obviously, the spooky side of that is that to meaningfully cache that, we'd have to store their private key somewhere else and move it about somewhere else, or they'd have to do that, and then we'd have to talk to it and get access to it. Either way, it was an ask. It's a thing that maybe would be valuable, but obviously we're not committed to that or anything. Adam, you are muted.
I am. Isn't this what just the backups are for? Like, wouldn't they just use Valero to back up their secrets?
It's I suppose in their disaster world they've lost their backups. Like they were trying to I don't know, but they yeah, there are other tools that wouldn't require us to write anything that would help, like Valero and stuff like that would certainly help with the problem. We've talked before about maybe having like a middleman service that intercepts Acme calls and caches them, but that's a hell of a lot of work for not much thanks to do that. So I can't imagine it happening, but at least two people mentioned it coming up to the booth, so I'm saying it here just because then it's captured. But mostly it was just a lot of people saying very nice things about us all, and I I always enjoy that aspect of Kubecon, and it's I shook a lot of hands, probably too many because I caught a cold, but it was nice. It was all very nice. I'll pass over to Richard, who was also there.
Yeah, I was just thinking about. I was trying to remember everything. So I do. You've already said some of this, but we had a conversation with some people from a bank who were struggling with CA rotation, and maybe I promised a lot of things, but I think maybe we said that we should improve the documentation about how to sensibly rotate CA certificates, a playbook or something, and it would involve Trust Manager, maybe another version without Trust Manager, I don't know. I do remember the conversation about the disaster recovery that Ash just talked about. I feel like we told them, we mentioned Valero, and they had some reason for not using it. I can't remember what it was. There was another discussion, and I don't know who they were or what company it was, after Tim and Eric's talk, where the company were using Acme, but not with Let's Encrypt, but with a rather expensive CA. And they didn't want to reissue certificates every time someone added a domain name to a certificate, to a cert-manager certificate. They kind of wanted to batch them up so that the certificate could be edited and edited and edited to the desired state, and then triggered to renew and save them the cost associated with connecting to this expensive issuer. I thought that was a good idea. I got to talk to someone at the Helm stand about the extra objects topic. The people come to us, cert-manager and other projects, and say, add an extra manifests field to your Helm chart. And I tried my best to push back on that, and I created an issue in the Helm repo suggesting that they should support this if it's so widely desired. And anyway, I got a chance to make that case to someone at the Helm project. And the contrib festival, yeah, that was great. We've merged some of the contributions, and some of them I think haven't been merged because they turned out to be not necessary, and some of them haven't been merged because we're still discussing them. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good to see all the cert-manager maintainers past and present as well. It was quite a sociable event. Adam.
I think I only got two things and two highlights and an action out of KubeCon. Like highlighting one was every time I went to a talk, a lot of ones about Helm optimization I went to, and things about deployment and Argo optimization. A lot of the example things they deploy was cert-manager, and that's always lovely to see. The amount of talks I went to and that was an example used. Second good thing was actually getting to meet all of you and Eric, who obviously flew in. And the action is we still haven't posted that photo to Twitter of us all together.
Yeah, that's I'll add that as an action item for me to do. I need to do it on my personal laptop, which is there, so I'll try and take that one off.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's about it. I wasn't at the booth a huge amount because I was there on work to dine. So who hasn't gone.
Does anyone else want to share anything about Kubecon if they were there? I'm guessing that's a no. Yeah, to I guess to wrap up the Kubecon talk, I cannot recommend highly enough Tim and Eric's talk. Like when that is available, it's such a good sort of look into what a really advanced deployment of cert-manager looks like, and it was excellent. When we have the link, we need to shout about it from the roof, and everyone should know.
I have a thing that's more related to Peter's writing an announcement than it is to thing. It occurred to me if we add any more announcements to the website, someone's going to have to implement pagination. Currently, the announcement page is just one list.
That is it. Vinny has found it and put it in chat. We do need pagination potentially, yes, but for now, we'll kick that can down the road at least. And that is the video. It's so good.
We should put that as an announcement. Like our video is now available. Go watch it and then tweet about it.
Yeah.
That's why the pagination jumped into my head. Like we got so many announcements we want to make.
Okay. Can we embed that? I assume we could embed that on the page, can we? No, maybe not. I don't know.
YouTube supports embed, and you can put HTML in the thing, and it will render out. You can just drop HTML straight into the Markdown, and it'll just work theoretically.
Theoretically, it should, but in practice, because it's JSX, it gets a little bit hairy at times. Like it needs to be React compatible. Like if it has class in as an attribute, it will fail, and you need to rename it to class name. I think.
But the files are just marked. That's the actual code that launches the website. But doesn't it read just the MD files and render them?
It parses them as like MDX, which is like a JSX flavored markdown. I don't love that it does that, but it does do that. Like
this is what the pull request preview feature is for.
Yeah, I would say we could embed it, but maybe it might end up being easy to add a link. I don't know.
Two things I forgot to mention. I've forgotten his name, but we've got a new cert-manager GitHub organization member.
Ali.
He did. What was his name, Ash?
Ali.
Yeah, he's really keen. He even wants to shadow the next release, which is on me. So I need to get in touch with him about that. The other thing I remembered is Microsoft. A guy from Microsoft came to the stand, and they're packaging cert-manager for the Microsoft Marketplace, which is going to be a bit like OpenShift Operator Hub. Don't know how I feel about it, but he was a nice guy, and we asked him to get in touch with us when he was ready to share something with us. I think he offered some. We talked to him about the ACDS external issuer, which is currently maintained by an individual, and he expressed an interest in perhaps that Microsoft might adopt that project and maintain it. So, yeah, perhaps we do need to have a debrief, don't we? Maybe Peter suggested this, but like a list, a brain dump of all the things we learned and remember from Kubecon.
Everywhere I previously worked, just like opened a shared document on whatever platform they had, and everyone put a page in there. And there's a lot of duplication, and at the end of it, someone would summarize it into bullet points, which is probably something ChatGPT could do.
Yeah.
That reminds me that AWS actually also have added cert-manager to their like marketplace thing. They came and were like, "Oh, congratulations!" I was like, "On what?"
I have feelings about this.
You have feelings about it.
I am worried, maybe unfoundedly, that people may have issues installing the cert-manager add-on. If they do have issues, they might come to us with them for a completely upstream managed project.
I can understand that concern. I'm less concerned with AWS. I think they've been pretty good at engaging with open source in my experience. I kind of think they'll be fine about it all, and more people is not a bad thing.
Yeah, I will just maybe unfounded, completely unfounded. I've seen horror stories of like fights between open source projects and people rebundling them.
At the end of the day, we just dropped OpenShift bundle stuff right from cert-manager, and that if we need to make it clear that we don't support it, that's no big deal. But it's all good. I've got my own laptop now to post the pictures. I've logged into all the accounts ready to go, so I can't forget.
In terms of the brain dump, I started to write things in the notes here. Seems as though we've mentioned them all. Seems as though it's recorded. Maybe we can ask Zoom's AI to tell us what we tried to brain dump and then forgot to write, and then paste it in.
Yeah. Good show. Did anyone have anything more on Kubecon? Doesn't look like it. So we still don't have anything on the agenda. One thing that I'd like to shout out quickly is on Trust Manager. I did a bit of work at the weekend on it, where I sort of was looking at cluster trust bundles and how we might adopt those. And there's been a bit of chat about this in various stand-ups this week, and things have been going on. Cluster trust bundles are going to be beta in the next Kubernetes release, so it's moving along. I created some issues in Trust Manager. This one's probably the more interesting one because it has the kind config you need to start a kind cluster that enables cluster trust bundles for testing purposes. It's worth looking into them. They change the paradigm a little bit because they only have one field for a PEM encoded trust bundle. They don't support arbitrary data. They also have this concept of signer stuff that integrates with Kubernetes' own signing logic and changes things, but don't think that affects us too much as far as I can tell. They're also world readable by default, which changes permission models slightly. In non-multi-tenanted scenarios, that makes them quite an interesting alternative to config maps for Trust Manager. Basically, I've just brain dumped a load of stuff. It might be interesting to people. Go take a look. That was all I had on that, though. Did anyone have any other topics they wanted to bring up that aren't on the agenda?
We're going to do some patch releases next week. That's my intention to bring patch releases for 1.17, 1.16 and 1.12, I suppose, to fix some CVEs. Yeah, that's it. You can see in the test grid at the moment, all of the Trivy tests are failing. So I'll try and fix all that next week.
Oh, the Adam says that someone in Slack asked for a CLI release. It's the same sort of vibes. It's been quite a while since that's been released. I'm going to do a CSI driver Spiffy release next week as well, but I don't think I'll have time to do more than that. Yeah, it's a good show. I think the website currently is showing 1.17.0 as the latest version of cert-manager, which I think we forgot to update that when we did 117.1, so we'll just skip 117.1 on the website and go straight to 2.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone got anything else, or should I stop the recording? Okay, I'll stop the recording then. If this ever ends up on YouTube, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.